in a workplace. And whereas we navigated through that thing of businesses not wanting to take care of their employees. And it goes back to that thing of having that fear. What am I investing at? Being afraid of the consequences of actually not having that blind faith of saying that, okay, I'm going to do this. And I don't know the results, but I'm hoping that they are positive. And I feel like it goes back to the thing of anxiety, of actually saying to yourself that I'm going to stand at this stage. I don't know how I present this. I might actually, my voice might crack. I might actually be anxious about this, but I'm going to do it. It's something that I believe that it's quite hard for most people, and I understand why, because it's not easy to stand in front of people. Because I remember doing, actually I forgot to mention also, I'm also a writer, I'm a poet. So I remember.
Oh, that's great.
I remember actually doing a poem in front of people. I think it was over 300 people. And after I'd done that poem, I couldn't believe that I did it. And I feel like in a way it goes to, in terms of people, when it comes to anxiety, they have this perception that people will laugh at them. They have this perception that people will look at them differently now because they have done a certain thing or have mispronounced certain words within their speech or within their poetry, within their presentation, because they have this fear of actually. It goes back to what Alexa Moses said, that as much as you might be afraid of doing something, and you have these thoughts of saying that, people laugh at me, and so I like that, and because it asks you what you're doing because you actually love it. You're doing this because you're actually going against your norms of actually standing back, of not doing it. So it's something that I believe that I want to, in terms of, I believe that I really needed to add on this conversation.
Oh, that is a great point, Aseko. I'm glad that you mentioned and brought that up, because a lot of people have these self-limiting beliefs saying, oh no, what is that person going to think of me? What is this big audience going to think of me when I go up and speak on that stage? And I 100% agree with you that, you have to not care what people think. It's not, you know what I mean? It's about developing and really building your self-confidence. And one of the strategies actually for doing away with old self-limiting beliefs, for example, the one that I had myself was nobody likes me. And I told myself that fake story in my mind for so many years. And it was something that's not even nearly true. So what I encourage listeners to do out there is, if you have these different perceptions of yourself not being good enough, or not, nobody likes me, or telling yourself all these things that are not true, I encourage you to say an affirmation that cancels out that negative thought or that negative belief about yourself. And for example, a replacement phrase can be, I am a kind and loving person, or I am loved. And try saying that out loud or writing it down at least 5 to 10 times. And there's something about that, especially when you recite it or write it down. It really reprograms your subconscious mind and sets off neurotransmitters. So I highly encourage you, if you have a negative thought about yourself, work on your self-development. Just take out a pad of paper and write down what your negative thought is about yourself, cross that out, and replace it with your very uplifting phrase. And then once you write that out, you can even practice saying it out loud many times. But the key is consistency, and to be able to say and do this daily for months on end. And it's been known to really raise your confidence levels and help you.
I love the fact that you mentioned that thing you usually speak to yourself. No one likes me, and I just want to add something on that. When I all myself faced with in terms of mental health problems, which was depression back then, and one thing I realized is the fact that of flip, in a way of I would say that I kept having these bad thoughts towards myself, saying things towards myself, and it's something that you might disagree with. I think so, and I believe that those bad things work in a way. Work as much as they are negative, they work in a positive way. The reason
and how so?
The reason why I bring that up is the fact that for a long time I've always told myself that I'm this, being negative towards myself, and I understood the fact that at some point I didn't realize that I was being honest with myself. It's something that is quite important. It's something that actually I viewed it as self-growth. So would you say that having those negative thoughts towards yourself, and let me not put negative thoughts, actually, because it's thoughts that you assume people think this way about you, but in a way of, when you put in that thing, do you believe being honest with yourself with the truth that is saying that you are suffering from this, you are said this, you are said so many times you are like this in a way, would you say that it really works in terms of being honest with yourself?
Okay, great question. So the question is basically, does my strategy work with being honest with yourself? Definitely. Is that the question? Yeah.
That's the question.
Okay. Yeah, I definitely think so, because you need to really reflect on who you are as a person and, say to yourself, well, like kind of examine your important relationships and look at, okay, well, how do my closest loved ones or my best friend, and how does everybody perceive me, right? And kind of open your mind to what others say about you. And it sounds kind of crazy, but it could be a good idea if you have some problems of your own self-perception and self-limiting beliefs, is to ask 3 close friends or 3 close family members to say what they like most about you. And then look at those answers and see how you can grow from them, and see if there's some sort of pattern that indicates that you are the opposite of what you think about yourself. It's a great exercise just to put a checkpoint and help you realize that you're not a horrible person after all. Everybody's human at the end of the day. And most of the time we're mostly hard on ourselves, right? We put limits on ourselves. A lot of us suffer from imposter syndrome, where we think we can't do it or become successful or anything like that. But mindset is number one. Discipline your mind. Ask people for feedback. There's no harm in that. And then find a way that will help you grow from that. And it really takes a lot of introspection on your part, because if you want to grow and evolve as a human being, you do need to look at your shadow self or your dark parts and figure out a way, how can I overcome that, right? And that's it. And that all comes down to the truth, your authentic self.
Definitely. And going back to, as I mentioned, that going back to that change of environment, and it's something that I feel like it's different. It's something that people have a different perspective towards it. The reason why I'm saying different perspective towards it, for example, in terms of actually being one with Mother Nature, actually going outside.
Yes.
The place that I'm at now is surrounded by trees, and surrounded by trees. And something that I want to bring up, because the reason why I'm bringing it up is the fact that I have come across this thing of being, as much as it's important to be surrounded trees, exploring nature, at the same time can be bad for you, because if you stay at that certain place for long enough of time, will actually bore you, and you realize that you're alone. And whenever we are in isolation, we have these different thoughts of saying that, going back to what you said, no one likes me, I'm not worth it, in terms of having that negative thoughts. How can we, in terms of duration, how would you require one to actually stay in that certain I would say, in certain field? I don't know how to put it in a way, but how can we put it in what is the duration of one if one wants to actually connect with Mother Nature? What is the duration? Because definitely when you stay long enough to a place, you actually get tired of it. For example, when it comes to when you have access to calcium, in a way, whenever you have that access affects your metabolic health, whereas your metabolic health actually affects your mental health. So in that perspective, what's the duration of staying in terms of being within nature?
Within nature. Yeah. I think it really varies, Aseko. If you're on a serious healing journey of you're wanting to overcome an illness or a serious mental illness, I'd encourage you to start between 3 to 6 months and really be consistent in your nature bathing. But like everything you mentioned, too much of one thing can have negative effects. Right?
Definitely.
And you don't want to be in nature isolated when you're having some serious mental issues, because what's important when you're dealing with stuff like that as well is to not only balance out your nature bathing, but to have the support system around you of people you can lean on and speak to when you're encountering problems in your life. Please don't just stay in isolation. If you're dealing with something very difficult and you're wondering how to keep going on in your life, I encourage you, call somebody up, your friend, a loved one, someone you haven't even spoken to in a while. It could be anybody. Talk to a neighbor, or just find somebody or a group of people that can surround you and be that support system for you. And I highly encourage, these days, some people don't like talking to professional therapists, but it's important to do. There's some therapists out there that are volunteer therapists. And if some people have financial limitations, they could just go online and fill out a form and get a volunteer professional therapist to speak to about any challenges you may be facing. So I highly encourage that. It's a mixture of everything, I find, that will help you heal from anxiety and depression and any other mental illness that you're dealing with. There's so many resources out there, especially podcasts like yours, Aseko. I know it has helped so many people. I know I've taken a listen to a lot of your episodes, and it's helped me because I really rely on other perspectives and ways to improve my life and how to help other people. So listening to podcasts, I highly encourage it because it not only gives you a different perspective, but it points you to the direction of what resources are out there that could help me. And there's options out there. You don't always need to pay a lot of money to get help. So I encourage you to do research and use what's at your disposal.
And it's something, you mentioned perspectives, and it's something that we usually don't do because we have these beliefs that were instilled within us when we are young, that you need to focus on this and not on
Yes.
this, not being open to this and this and this, or just not open to anything. Just